What if a single word in the Bible was never meant to be there?
What if that one mistranslation shaped how entire cultures understand love, faith, and identity?
That mistranslation happened in 1946. And for decades, it has been repeated, defended, and weaponized.
Now we're tracing how that moment continues to echo across churches, classrooms, and countries. We're exploring how misinformation about Scripture spreads and how critical thinking, education, and honest dialogue can help us see the bigger picture.
This is the 1946 Culture Shift Tour, UK, a journey through language, belief, and the stories that shape us.
In today's episode, we sit down with Stacey Carr, head of inclusion and skills at London's Donmar Warehouse Theatre, and an Emmy-nominated television executive whose career has spanned Los Angeles to London. Before moving to the UK, Stacey developed content for major networks like Nickelodeon and OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, and today she's helping shape more inclusive culture in the theatre world. We talk about courage, calling, and what it means to create a sense of home while starting over in a new country. From navigating faith and identity to building community abroad, Stacey's story reminds us that home isn't just a place. It's the people who help you find your way. Hey, Stacey.
Hey,
Fast
hi, my friends.
friend.
Hi, my friends. Fast fam. So good to see you guys.
Damn, for sure. I feel like we should just all
I know. I was gonna say where the heart emojis.
So yeah, as we were saying in our opening, Stacey and I go way back to Los Angeles. You were part of the origin story for 1946. I would say more than the origin story. I mean, like, it's the OG story. It's
before, yeah.
1946 started. Stacey and I were Stacey was the leader of a Bible study that I participated in a church in Los Angeles. And I felt brave enough to say, first of all, it was a wonderful group of people. There were a lot of people from all walks of life and a really diverse group. And I just felt comfortable to say, what you call sin, I don't call sin. And started this whole rabbit hole that led me down a path of learning about exegesis and how to read the Bible and see it differently and learn about affirming theology and Kathy Boldock. And it went down the whole rabbit hole. So we can get into that a little bit more too. But what I'd love to do is hear from you. If you can tell us who you are, what you were doing in Los Angeles, a bit of your backstory, and then maybe anything from that moment too. And then we'll move on to how you got across the pond.
Sure. Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Stacey. I originally grew up in Reno, Nevada, and went to college or uni, as we say in the UK, in Los Angeles. And after that, stayed and built a career in the entertainment industry. And in particular, I spent time developing reality shows or unscripted content. So I was an executive on both the production company and on the network side. Spent many years developing shows, working for companies like Oprah Winfrey Network and Nickelodeon and Endemol Shine, and just coming up, just building a career in entertainment and living that lifestyle, and being a single woman in LA, going to church, spending time with my friends, having experiences. And I think, Rocky, when we met, we were going to a church, and I was leading a group called Starting Point, which was an 8-week class, similar to Alpha in the UK, if anyone's really heard of that, where you just explore the fundamentals of faith. And it's for people who are exploring faith for the first time, are coming back to faith after a long time away, or are just in a place where, I've grown up sort of knowing these things, but I've never had a safe space to ask these questions. And I've always just been drawn to creating spaces for people to be able to talk about things. And to just bring, all of their different backgrounds into a space and say, I'm curious about God. There's something here I feel like is for me, but I'm just trying to figure out what it's about. So I really enjoyed leading that class and creating that space. And I learned a lot through that. And I still remember when you walked in, Rocky, just so confident and tall. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm Sharon, but I go by Rocky, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But yes, I
We're
totally
going to be
remember.
fast friends. I
I
remember
was
that
gonna
day
say,
too.
I was like, I love
Yeah.
her. I love her. Let's do it. Yeah. And then one of my dreams had been to move to London. I had visited in 2011, and I was just kind of coming up in the corporate world and, having some cool jobs, but that feeling of like, what's next? What's the next dream? I've always been someone who's been very sort of dream driven, like really wanting to go to LA, really wanting to work for Oprah. Once you do those things, like what's the next thing? And for me, it was moving to London. And so I spent a few years trying to figure out how to make that happen. And then took the big leap and essentially got on a plane back in August of 2021 to figure out a new chapter and figure out, what God had for me in London. And yeah, we'll probably get into it a bit, but it's been a series of ups and downs. I was able to get a visa through my accomplishments in television, but I'm also coming at a time where the entertainment industry is majorly contracting, and it's just a much smaller industry than I had realized before I came out here. So I've actually recently pivoted, and I've been working in the theater space for the last year in an inclusion role and a professional development role, working in inclusion and skills. Yeah, over the last few years, even as I was moving, I had started to consult and work with creatives who were navigating their careers and getting their creative projects in a good place to be partnered up and pitched out. And so I've sort of served as a consultant and a coach, and now I'm in-house doing that at a theater. Yeah, I've always had a heart for people, and just essentially helping like shine a light in the darkness, right? Whether that be exploring faith, whether that be, well, what do I do with my career? I'm just always in a really happy place to walk on that journey with people, I would say, is kind of one of the themes and one of the roles that I play in this world. But yeah, so now I've been in London for about 4 years, and we're all here together now, and I'm still trying to figure out what's next in my life. But yeah, I guess if I could sum it up, I'm a former TV exec turned theater culture leader, still figuring out my way in London.
Man, I really appreciate everything you said as far as like wanting to create a space for people and exploring what, wherever they are in their walk. I remember walking into that class, and first of all, I'm like, what am I doing in this church? What am I doing here? And now I'm taking a Bible study, like what's going on? And I hadn't been in church, as you know, I hadn't been back to church in 20 some years.
Yeah.
And you did make that super welcoming, and our experiences are different, where I'm a lesbian woman and you were a single woman in that space. And I felt comfortable enough to share those things with you, which really did make a difference. And who knows, my story could have been totally different if it were a different leader. So
Aw.
we're going to say the 1946 thing happened with Kathy Baldock and Stacey Carr, somewhere along those lines. Um, well, anyway, I was happy to be able to then pass on a little bit of friendship for you coming, the leap that you took coming over. I know as we developed our friendship in LA, and this had been something you'd wanted to do for a long time, you gave up your car, your apartment, your great connections, your job, your community to go to a foreign place. And I knew one person that I could introduce you to who was on the call today, our co-host,
Uh-huh.
Josie
Uh-huh.
Perez. And you guys
Yes.
became friends. Josie, do you want to maybe say a little, what was your first impression of Stacey?
Yeah, so um, let's go back to the email. I remember you sent me an email and then copied Stacey and then
We had a Zoom
Sta-
call, didn't we? Yeah. We
yeah,
had a Zoom call
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
and then the pandemic happened, and then it was like open border, closed border, open borders, closed borders. And then it was just suddenly, I think it was summer. Was it August that you traveled, Stacey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then you were like, right, I'm coming. I don't care. I don't want these hurdles anymore. And yeah, we were just sort of communicating email messages. I was like feeding you because obviously, as you like to say, Josie knows Stacey's tagline for me about like just a font of knowledge of just like random stuff.
Everything.
And so I was like, oh, you need this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we, and then I think obviously once you arrived and you were sort of trying to figure out stuff, we then met up, and I think we just organically gelled. Like there was just this instant connection, and then obviously introduced you to my extended family, and everybody, and you were just like,
these are my homies. This is it.
yeah, exactly. It just like organically joined up perfectly. And yeah, I said that to you. Whenever we meet up, for me, it always feels like that spark of like, I come away feeling good and energized, and I'm just like, I love when we meet up, because we always seem to troubleshoot and like put the world to rights, and yeah, just have such amazing conversations. And I just love the energy and stuff when we connect.
Yeah.
And I've just, I've said this to you before, Stacey, like coming to a foreign country and like trying to navigate the culture, and what looks normal for some people may not necessarily translate, but you try and navigate those barriers and stuff.
Yeah.
And, just watching you do that has been like incredible, because I'm like, wow, you've just, it's hard, and you've come here without any like blood relatives, trying to find community, trying to, find a job, trying to navigate all these spaces, and everything has just been like incredibly, just wow. I've been really inspired by your courage. Yeah, and I didn't know if you wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the amazing things that you've been doing. Like, for example, we're coming to see you speak at True Story. Is it True Stories?
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember the name of the place that you did the thing on stage. When you were dancing
Oh,
to,
yeah.
yes. And you also talk about that. I just couldn't remember it.
Oh, yeah.
in the
One
top of my
Track
head.
Minds. Yeah. I'll talk about
Yeah.
that for sure. Yeah. Well, I just want to say, yes, all of that is absolutely true. And Rocky, I just do want to thank you for the connection. The one thing that was cool about moving abroad at my age was that I did have quite a strong network of people, particularly in LA, big city to big city. And there was some overlap there because, and I just want to share this for the audience, because it's like, it's hard to just go somewhere from scratch, but it's like I at least had people who were like, meet this person, meet this person, meet this person. And Josie was one of the few people that I met beforehand, and was really just someone hugely instrumental, because I did not know what was really going on during the pandemic. And, as you guys know, most countries know about other countries because of headlines, and you don't always know what's actually happening on the ground, whether that be big things, small things, bad things, war, politics. We're only really learning about things from headlines. And so it's always great to have people on the ground who are willing to help you. And Josie, I'm just so forever grateful that you were really someone who was really talking me through that whole thing. And when we met in person, it was just like, oh, this person is not just like a resource, but this person is actually going to be a really good friend of mine. And I'm just so grateful. And I also have to share this one thing, because I will never forget it as long as I live. Rocky, I don't know if I told you this. I think I did. But I had literally had met Josie's sister and aunt, like, I'm sorry, niece. Like one time we had like a really nice afternoon together, and I had my 40th birthday party in London, and her sister made a cake for me after meeting me one time. And I just remember being like, I cannot believe she made a cake for me. Like, wasn't even like a category that I presented. Oh, I'd really like a cake, blah, blah, blah. She offered and just was so thoughtful. And I was just like, I really feel like I'm home and I could live here because I have a community. I'm having a party. People are actually coming to it, and someone made a cake. Like, it was just one of the most touching, most kind things anyone's ever done for me in my entire life. And it just means a lot to me. And so, yeah, Fast Fam for sure.
That's beautiful.
But to answer your question, Josie, moving to London has been a process of reinvention and exploration. And as someone who has spent my career helping other people tell stories and helping people to craft their stories, evaluating stories, figuring out what stories need to be on the screen, what stories work for this brand, what stories are going to help you get to the next level, how are we going to tweak this and tweak that. I've been in a place where I've had to look at my own life and say, what stories are going on right now? And, my life doesn't look like how I thought it might. I didn't totally know what I thought it would look like, but it's very different. I wasn't able to work in a career that I thought I had been able to. I wasn't able to support myself in the way that I had been able to before. So I'm in a new place. I'm growing exponentially by having moved abroad. I'm introducing myself to hundreds of new people. I'm learning all this stuff. I'm in theater, something that I had done a million years ago and counted myself out of back in uni. But now I'm in this space again in London with all these people who've been in it for years, in this institution that has traditionally been very closed off, but is now starting to open up. And I'm someone that's helping people gain access to this space. How the hell am I here? What the hell is going on? And where are we headed? And what am I learning? And so I think, one practice that I picked up about 3 years ago was the process of writing morning pages after having read the book, The Artist's Way, just to as a way to sort out your feelings and your thoughts first thing in the morning. And I think that has led to writing on LinkedIn and sharing stories about the things that I'm learning. And, when I was consulting and not working a ton in a full-time job, just talking about all the different ways that you grow and all the different ways that I was growing from having moved abroad, because you don't always just get everything from your job. I think we all learned during the pandemic that it's not like our job is the be all end all for where we're getting in anywhere. So I started to just share stories about my life. And I think just as you're figuring out where your future is, sometimes you do look back into your past and you start reflecting on things and reinterpreting them as an adult. I've been really intrigued by that. And so that process of writing daily, starting to post on LinkedIn, led to some opportunities to explore live storytelling. And I've had a few events that I've performed at. One Track Minds was about life-changing songs, and I shared a story from childhood. And I found this really cool community called True Story London that has regular draft meetups where we meet monthly to share stories and exchange ideas. And then they also have a show monthly. So I've been performing on that and really learning to grow and increase my skills. I recently took a life and memoir writing class because I don't know, there might be a memoir. I feel like I'm in the middle of a memoir. But yeah, I think it's been an interesting time of the storytelling scrutinizer telling her own stories, and what does that mean, and do I think they're valuable?
Mm. And I think just to add to that as well, Stacey, we always talk about this because you always say, Josie, you have a story. And I'm always like, but you have a story. And we kind of go back and forth about, we might not think, or sometimes we think, oh, who's going to read that? Who's going to want to hear my story? It's not unique or whatever, but it is, because we say that to each other. I mean, your story's totally unique. Who said someone would get on a person of color getting on a plane, coming to a completely different culture and just like being, navigating the space?
And no, it's so inspiring when I first saw you when we went to the first story time, because it's intimidating to get up on a stage, and then it's almost like giving a mini TED talk, but about something that happened in your life. So it's memorized, 90% of the people that went up did not have a script. And I was really impressed overall by all of the acts, but so proud of you to see you
Thank you.
step out of your comfort zone, and share your story, which is incredible.
I wanted to ask Stacey about sort of the culture shock. Has there been a culture shock for you, coming from LA, America, and navigating the spaces here? What has that felt like to you? I mean, I've been here for far too long, so sometimes I do feel very British. But also I wanted to know what that feels like for you now, 4 years in. And yeah, what does that feel like for you?
I would say the day-to-day life, I was surprised when I first got here just how well I acclimated. Even from hanging your laundry as opposed to using a dryer was like, oh, okay, that felt so wild when I got here, that you have to dry your clothes on a clothing rack, or that even all your clothes could fit on one. But then it does, and then they're dry, and then you move forward. So I think the day-to-day things, not having a car, riding the tube, those things actually came quite quickly and easily, and I was very drawn to that lifestyle change. And I really, really liked it. And I would say that that's probably specific to London than just moving abroad or moving to England in particular. But I found those things quite easy. Hearing British people say sorry all the time, the lack of the customer is always first or always right, or, can I help someone when you enter a store, or just like, we're really used to like really good hospitality and customer service in the States, and there's just not as much there. Like you go into a store and it's like, I'm on my own here. Like no one's gonna help me. So every now and then someone does ask if they can help, and I'm always like, oh my God, this is the best experience of my life. I think, honestly, the biggest, I mean, there's a lot of things even in the workplace with, there's so many days off here, and there's like people are just like fine to take days off, and lots of, much more work-life balance and things like that, which I'm like, okay, it's cool. Like, but coming up in like Hollywood culture, I'm just like, I don't need that much time off. I'm happy to work. So I'm still trying to like feel that out. But I think, more than anything, and the thing that I probably bump against and I still feel like I'm navigating is just this, you know, America has lots and lots of problems. It's not a perfect country. There are a lot of concerns, but I think there's a lot of great things that come out of it too. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for, and I've said this before to probably both of you, and I talk about it a lot, is there is something really special about growing up with the American dream, or that spirit, or that idea that you can do anything and that you can be anything, and that if you, work hard, or through education, or through putting your mind to, whatever, that things are possible. But just to have that sort of belief. And we've also just seen so many examples of that. And I've actually seen so many examples in my own life. There have been so many miraculous moments that have happened in my life, whether it be through my hard work or with God blessing me, or a combination of both. But there's just always been this idea in my mind that things were possible. And the celebration of what you've been able to do, of your accomplishments, of your achievements. I feel like in the UK, people are much more downplayed about everything, much more understated. I think the culture really wants to kind of keep people like chilled, not wanting too much, not desiring too much, not dreaming too big. And we could probably do a whole other podcast on like what that's about. But I've just seen in a lot of spaces the ways that that's kept people down. And I think particularly people from underrepresented backgrounds who aren't in the majority in this country, there's just this mindset that like even more hurdle that they have to overcome, because they've been told from very early on that these things aren't possible, but I think they are. So I feel like it's something that I sort of bump up against, and I see it more and more, just people apologizing for things that are just so basic. And I'm just like, no, you don't need to apologize. Like, you're supposed to be here. You can want things. You can go for things. You can achieve. So I feel like that's a bit of a spirit that I want to bring over here.
Fascinating. I have been in London as a tourist, so I'm in and out. I don't have a global talent visa or a family visa, which we are working on. I did get married,
Yet.
so
Yeah. I
I
was like,
will
yet.
be able to, yeah, I will be able to go for a family visa, but my tour here, I work from home too, still with a 1946 team, so I really haven't had that much of an experience as far as connecting with people on that level, but I understand where you're coming from, and I can see what you mean. And it for us coming and leaving the United States or living abroad, it's always like, you know, it you take for granted the things that are really have always been there, you don't think about, and that might be one
Sit.
of those things, you just,
Sit.
"Oh, wow," the laundry stuff we can get over. There's no room for the dishwasher because the washing machine is in the small kitchen,
Yeah.
right, where
Yeah.
most houses are, and those things we can get used to, but it's that cultural stuff that you don't even really think about until you're there, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, I am so grateful that I had that kind of upbringing or
Yeah.
whereabout to, yeah, definitely took a lot of that for granted."
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, even just when I see people online still talking about, this, the US is this and it's not that and it's not this. And I was like, go somewhere else and see how much
Yeah,
more you like it.
yeah. No, for sure, for
So it's
sure.
just like, yeah, it's always tricky, I think, and to be grateful where you are sometimes.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm not, I wasn't born in this country. And I
Right.
think I can understand where there's this element of like humbleness of where they try to teach you to be super humble, but then that takes you only so far.
That's it.
And I can speak to what you were just saying, Stacey. It's that element of like, dream big, but not too big, because then you become too big for your boots. Or you've seen that even within celebrity culture. A lot of British people like the Beckhams and so on all leave the UK because they feel that when they try and elevate themselves to what you're speaking about, dreaming big and whatever, they are then quickly, vilified. So,
Always. That's
and
why all the big British celebrities have gone to the States.
yeah, and that is something that happens. And I don't think it's just a British thing. I think it's a European thing,
Okay.
because you find that with like Scandinavians and Swedes, and like they really downplay everything. It's almost like they like be humble, but it's like, yeah, I can be humble, but I can also like amplify and big up myself, because I am amazing. I do incredible things, and I should be recognized. So I do struggle sometimes with trying to find that balance. And that's why I said to you, like when we meet up, I always feel energized and invigorated, because I do like that middle ground. And I found that when I went to Canada, Canada has that good combination. They have
Interesting.
that positive elevation thing of the Americans, but then they also have the realism of the European influence, I think, as
Yeah.
well. And I
Interesting.
like that balance between the two. But yeah, so I understand. Like, I mean, coming from South Africa myself, and an ex-apartheid country, where people that looked like me and of the same color, we would like aspire to be whatever. However, when I came to this country, it was a different culture, different mindset, different way of thinking. And it took me a long time to kind of get around the nuances and how to be and how to navigate spaces and not feel like I'm taking up too much space, but then also feel like how to just be myself and be proud of who I am, and as well as like a queer person and all of that. But then also I just wanted to say, thinking about yourself, and I know you always speak openly about your faith and sort of how that translates with you also navigating that within the UK. And I know that you said you're on this journey. I didn't know if you want to just talk a little bit more about that.
When I first landed in London 4 years ago, I was definitely interested in finding a faith community because I have mostly always been a part of one. There've been seasons of my life where I haven't been super plugged in, but for me, it's like, okay, I'd love to find a church. I'd love to find friends. I'd love to find an opportunity to serve. And so again, I had like a nice list of churches that friends had told me about. A few places I had even joined their services online during the pandemic. So there were a few that, okay, this seemed kind of cool. Let me check these out. So I think I had tried about 8 churches when I first got here, and I was a part of a church. I leaned into one, and I was a part of it for about 3.5 years, and met some really, really great people there. Had some, yeah, met some women who were like around my age group. Because one thing that I'm finding, and you may have some familiarity with this. It's a tricky time to be a 40-something woman in church, because it's usually like a ton of young people, and then like families, right? And so like when you're sort of in the middle and you're a single person, I don't know where like all those people go. There's like a few of them in a church, but it's like you're either like a young person or you're married. And it's like, I don't know. There's just like this, it's hard to you start losing your place a little bit. And you're definitely in that place where you can become more of a leader in that area. But sometimes you go to churches and you're definitely in the minority. But the church I actually landed at was a ton of young people. But luckily I did find a nice group of women that were around my age group that I could become friends with. I was involved in a ministry that served the homeless, and I ended up doing a class that was similar to Starting Point called Alpha. So I led a couple of those sessions. And I think, particularly when I first got here and I had time, and even my first year, I was still figuring out visa and immigration stuff. I wasn't able to actually officially work yet. I had a lot of time to get to know people and plug in and things like that. And so it was a great way to get to know people, to get to know the city, to get to know what faith communities were doing in the city, what people's experiences were. But I think I did always struggle with the fact that it very much catered to younger people. And I did feel like a minority in a lot of ways. And not only did it cater to younger people, but it catered a lot to British culture. Because I think a lot of people who grow up in faith community here, they have very specific things that happen. Like, I think, most of them have grown up with something, or their parents are all Christians, and they're really big on like festival cultures here, and like weekends away and camp outs and all these different things. And I've done things like that kind of in the past, but they're like really big here. But like, there's not always a lot of explanation around what they are and what they're for, and is everybody welcome? And there were just times where I'm just like, I don't really know what all these things are, but everyone's just doing them, and I don't want to do it. And so where does that leave me? And so I think there were a few years where I was just really sort of pushing through and leaning into my ministries, but also just feeling like, I don't know if I really feel like this is the faith community for me. Also, it's really big. And so I think sometimes it's hard for like the staff to, um, be able to invest in people. And, Rocky, the church that we went to in LA before, we both moved here, was much smaller. I knew everybody. I was really involved. I felt appreciated for all I was doing. Not that I felt like I was owed that, but it was just nice to feel appreciated, because when you feel appreciated, you keep doing more, right? But it was just like, okay, I'm part of this community. I'm serving people in this community. People recognize me, and like I feel like I'm a part of something. But here I felt like I was getting lost. So I think um, I decided at the top of this year to step away from that church. And right now I have a couple groups of women that I meet with monthly to um, pray and talk about our lives. And we're really sort of walking alongside each other's lives and investing in each other in that way. And I'm visiting churches, and there's one that I'm thinking about joining that feels a little bit smaller, a little bit more diverse in terms of life stage. And the staff feel a little bit more accessible. So I'm thinking about investing there. But it's just been this place of like, I think part of it is being in a new country. How do people do church here? But also being in your 40s and being single, and just like, I already know that every church is never going to be totally me and totally what I would hope and dream. So you're just trying to figure out like, what are the things that I'm willing to sacrifice if it means that I could still be growing and still be investing in people. So I think that's constantly a question I'm weighing.
I'm also wondering whether, because I've not really done church in this country. I did it in South Africa, but I know, for example, my sister and my family do and did, but I think they probably came up against some similarities to what you're explaining. They tried a few different churches in different areas. And I don't know whether that speaks to the fact that, like, if you weren't born here and you didn't start up within, those churches, it
Yeah.
does feel different. And it's, again, a different culture, a different way they do things. Growing up in South Africa, we all sort of lived in the same area. Your church was in the area where you sort of grew up and were born, and people, and
Yeah.
everybody looks out for each other, and you just know things, right? And if someone
Yeah.
doesn't come to church, you'd go over and see if they were okay. You'd take something because you'd wonder if they were sick, or yeah, those are the things I used to love about church, was the community, the caring, the people knowing if you weren't there that week, they would just check in on you to check if you were okay.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get that feeling of, it is different, and I can't really speak about churches here purely because I haven't attended myself. So I don't, but I can only go from what my sister and my
Yeah.
family have said, and I can see that is a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, maybe that is potentially because you're coming here at a different age in your life, a different time in your life, and that does look a bit different. But I don't know what it would be like the other way. So say if my family went to America, for example, would they
hmm
come up against the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, finding community looks so different in so many different stages. And
Yeah.
That's a real issue. I was speaking about single people in the church recently and talking about, as it relates to LGBTQ people, I'm like, well, let's talk about single people in the church because they go through some stuff, and the
Yeah.
perspective you just gave, I didn't even really think about. But of course, like there's going to be
Mhm.
that generational gap. And then everyone in our age group, we're about the same age, are mostly married.
Yeah.
Uh, and we were talking about families and children and things like that too. And it's like, and single moms are looked at so differently in the church. And I think that we as a church community can just do better. And as we have these conversations and, the things that we're doing, even with the 1946 team around LGBTQ, but this is more than just LGBTQ issues. This is how we do life with humans, and we all have our own different perspective and walk. And how are we putting our arms around the community together? So I'm going to be exploring some churches. So we'll have to have a sidebar conversation later because now that I'm going to be a
Yes.
little bit more embedded, working on a family visa
Yeah.
here more
Yeah.
permanently, and now meeting more people, I've got a couple churches on my list. So
Okay, great.
we'll
Yes,
have to
let's
pick
talk
up
about
on
it.
it.
And maybe we visit some together too. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. So
Yes.
no, but that's interesting. I'm interested in learning to see, the differences in social justice, how churches here handle social justice issues. I know that in the United Kingdom, there's a merger of state and church, but not as much of. I feel that the Christianity is way different over there than the Christianity here, as far as the way that we're pushing for more church in the state, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be Christian nationalism, but it's just approached so differently. So I'm kind of curious on learning those things this year, and that's what I'm going to be doing and talking with more people. We've met people because Josie and I have been going out and sharing the film in the United Kingdom, and we've met Christians. Were at London Pride. We're wearing our 1946 shirts, and there was a team from I think it was Queen Mary Church, and they're like
It's
1946.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, they had seen the film. I
Yeah,
love
seen the film.
that.
Yeah, it was neat. So that
1946.
feels pretty good,
That's really
but
great.
there's still for me, like obviously with 1946, it does center around LGBTQ, and so this group of people that we met were gay Christians, and so we
Yeah.
do still exist everywhere, even in the United Kingdom.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and so I'm
Absolutely.
excited to learn more and visit some of those churches in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask one other thing, Stacey, around your visa, in case anybody else is listening about this and being like, "How did she do it?"
Yeah.
Would you just want to talk a little bit about the visa side of things,
Yeah.
just in case you might have a little American girl dreaming about
Yes.
something going abroad?
Jo
I don't know why I
mhm.
started speaking like that, but anyway.
Was that your
Was
American
that your
accent,
American?
It was not. It
Josie?
was not.
That's your
Oh
American
gosh.
accent.
It's so funny. Can I just say the people who try to do an American accent with me, it's just so funny and cute. Like at my job, they're always like, "Hi, Stacey." Like it's always like super like dramatic and usually like goes up and like in a question mark and then I will follow them. It's really funny. In any case, no, great question, Josie. I always like to talk to people about visas because that's always the big hurdle when anyone's ever dreaming about doing this. So I came over on a global talent visa, and this is a visa where I believe they have a few different categories. I think they have one for like tech. They have like an arts and culture one, and I think within that there's one for film and TV, which is the one that I'm on, and there's one like if you do like theater and like a bunch of like combined arts and things like that. But it's a really flexible visa where you can apply to come between 1 and 5 years, and you can do different things where like if you've like in my instance, if you've been nominated for certain types of awards, you can apply for endorsement with some you have to also get some endorsement letters and things like that, like letters of recommendation, essentially. And then once you're endorsed, you can apply for the visa. But if you've won so many different awards that are on their list, then you can just apply for it straight away. And it gives you just a tremendous amount of flexibility because you don't have to be tied to a company or a school or anything. You essentially just need to pay your fees and then, come and pay your taxes and do what you do. But it's been really great. I'm on a 5-year visa right now. I'm 3 years into a 5-year visa. And then Yeah, I think after 3 years, even now, I could apply for indefinite leave to remain, which is like a green card. So I'm working toward being able to do that. But the advice that I always give everyone, Josie, is just to make sure that you are always reading the fine print of whatever visa you think you might go up for. They're also always introducing new visas with new stipulations. So even if you're like, okay, I want to move to the UK, but I'm not seeing an option, look again in 3 months because they may have introduced something that you do qualify for, or maybe they changed the name of something and it's called something different now, or maybe they've added new criteria to something that you didn't qualify for before, but now you do. In my case, I actually um, I qualified for the global talent visa the whole time I've been in London, but I didn't realize until I had been here 9 months, because when I first looked at the visa, it was called something else. I didn't qualify for it. And so I could have actually done it even earlier. And I think it's a really important part of my journey that I didn't find out until later, and it's fine. But yeah, it's not always just like, oh, I need to marry someone or I need to go to
Yeah, yeah,
school.
yeah.
There are other
Yeah, oh,
options.
jeez.
There are other options, and it might take a while to figure it out. Might take a while for maybe you to qualify for it, but to make sure that you're keeping your eye on that fine print because the things change a lot.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Stacey. And also, I mean, just the discussion today has been really great, learning about our friendship, the connection, how 1946 has brought us all together.
Yeah.
Like, the community that this space has created is insane, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if it wasn't for 1946, would our paths ever crossed?
Maybe
I don't know.
not. Maybe
I don't know.
not. Because you wouldn't have met Rocky,
No, absolutely.
and yeah, it wouldn't have worked out. And yeah, can I just also just say I'm really, really, really proud of you, Rocky. I know I've told you this before, but I think you and I connected in like 2017 when you were just starting this and you were just talking to me about it, and we had done multiple hikes where you were telling me about it. And I had seen like a couple like drafts of it, but for me to see the premiere of it in London, sitting next to both of you, was just very, very special, very exciting.
It feels like a full circle moment.
It
doesn't
really
in some ways?
does. And I'm just so proud of what you guys have been able to do with the brand. And I just think it's such an important message for the LGBTQ community to know that God has an open door for them. That is the bottom line. And I think that the film really hits that message very hard. And I'm really, really proud that you guys have been able to do that.
Thank you. I was going to say that audience might not know. I'm so grateful for the time that you did give us during the post-production phase of the film,
Yeah.
because you're a TV executive with really big credits
I've
and really
worked
big
in
awards,
documentaries. Yeah, it's my
Awesome. And
space.
so having that feedback was crucial. And actually, I remember Daniel Karslake and Jenna Serbu, our producers, were like, "This was the best feedback ever. Who is this?" I'm like, "Stacey."
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was
Well, thank
like, I
you.
got you guys. I got you guys.
And you kind of then touched on one of our last questions here, which is something that I think is so important for our Christian audience to hear. How do you come to peace with accepting LGBTQ and Christian? Like, what is it for you that you just said you want everyone to know that God loves them, but was there a turning point, or was there a moment where you were just like, I'm not going to discriminate, I'm just going to show love? Or what is it? What is it for you?
Oh, good question. I don't think there's ever been a point in my life where I've felt like I needed to discriminate against anybody. Being a Black woman growing up in Reno, Nevada, it's not even an option. Um, I grew up going to church from young, but then had a big period where I wasn't doing that and found God again in my teens and really grew in my faith, I would say, in college and beyond that. And I think during that process, there was always discourse and conversation around, what people do with their sexuality. And it's always been a conflicted topic, as you both know. And for me, I was always just kind of like, I don't really, I mean, what's the, you know what I mean? Like,
why is it a big deal?
Yeah, what's the big deal? I don't really understand what the big deal is. And, I do think I am one of those people that is really big on like, anyone of any sexuality definitely does need to take their sexuality before God if they are a believer and if they are a Christian. I think that is a conversation for everyone to have. And it's not a part of your life that's just over here and you can do whatever you want with. I think we all need to engage with God on the issue. But I feel like that's something that is a message for everybody across the board. So I think I would say if there's anything that's been my bottom line, it's that for everybody. But yeah, I think I've been in a lot of spaces and I've been really grateful that I've met a lot of people with a variety of different sexualities who are engaging with God and are involved in the church, and they've spoken and invested in my life and vice versa. And yeah, I wish there was more overlap in the communities, because I do feel like in a lot of ways they have been divorced from each other and separate. But yeah, I think over the years I've enjoyed reading books and listening to, faith leaders and different influencers who do talk about being gay and Christian. And I think it is an important conversation and an important subject to explore. It's something that I'm curious about. But yeah, I don't know if there was ever been a decision made. It's just, I've just never ever felt that there were ever barriers to come to Jesus. And I never believed that there should be any for any reason. And so whenever there have been people who have said no because of this, just like, it's just not really correct. Are there issues that you need to talk to God about your personal life? Yes, but it's never been a barrier of entry, if that makes sense.
That's such a beautiful way to end it, though, because, yeah, exactly that. You can be gay and Christian, basically, and nobody should be gatekeepers of your relationship with God.
That's it.
And if they are, then that's not the space for you, and you can find that community elsewhere, basically. And that's such a beautiful way to live life, Stacey. I wish there were more Christian people or Christians of faith or any other religion that thought in the same way. It's like, you are not the gatekeeper of anybody's relationship with any God.
That's exactly it. Yeah. We all go to bed at night thinking to ourselves, praying, those quiet moments. The door is open for everybody to have those quiet moments with God when no one is around. God's not saying, "Oh no, oh no, oh, oh."
Exactly, terms and conditions. Not you.
Like, what are you talking about? Exactly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love
No, that's
that.
great.
It's so important for our audience to hear, and it really means a lot. It means a lot to me, like I said, feeling comfortable from the first moment I met you to every time I see you. Can't wait to give you a big hug when I see you at True Stories on Monday.
I know, yeah.
But we're going to bring it home now, actually.
Yeah.
We gave you a little bit of a warning. Our whole season is about finding home. And I know it might look different in every season, but how would you define home, or what does home mean for you in this season?
Oh, great question, Rocky. I mean, my home is London. I don't think about other places much. I miss my family back in the States, but this is where I know that I'm supposed to be right now. And I feel like London has become home because of the community that I have. When you have friends here, people that you can call when you're in trouble, if you need advice, if you need prayer, whatever it is, I have that here. I've been able to find a really robust, lovely community here. And this is where I'm meant to be for the foreseeable. I do want to spend a little bit more time in my hometown because I do miss my family. And I think particularly around the holidays, it is nice to be with like your people. But I'm really grateful. I don't really feel lonely being in London. And a lot of people say it's a lonely city, and it's just nothing that I've experienced thus far. And I think both of you are part of the reason why that hasn't happened, because I came out here with a sense of someone that I could talk to. So yeah, I'm grateful that loneliness hasn't been my experience.
That's amazing, because I can speak to that it can be lonely, but you've done amazing finding your community, finding your people. And yeah, hopefully, and long may that continue.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah. For anybody
Thank
that's
you.
scared to kind of come out, you're proof that this is,
Yeah,
anything is possible.
I will. And I will say, Josie, is that you do have to make the effort. You know,
Agreed.
you do have to show up. You do have to say yes to things. You do have to invite people to things that you're doing. You do need to show up when people have invited you. So it's not just like you're going to sit there and all of a sudden this is going to happen. You do need to put energy into it, but I would say it's worth it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Agreed.
Always.
Well, thanks for sharing your insight with our audience and this inspiration of hope around the world and doing brave things. And let's do brave things together on Monday. I'll see you then.
Yeah, let's do it. Bye, friends.
Right.
Love you much.
Love you. Bye-bye.
See you
so
soon.
There's a way to escape from this pain. You don't have to fall away. You don't have to learn to stay as you bow your tears to pray.